here we go. Let me turn up the volume a little bit so you guys can hear it better. All right.
Talk to you all about the state of battle for Azeroth. Now, it's been a while since I've made a video. I know that. I just want to address the elephant in the room, and I'm sorry. Maybe I'll make more soon, but it depends on how things go. The truth is that it's been kind of frustrating for me to make videos because I really don't like the direction the game has gone in recently, and it just seems to be getting worse. I want to talk to you all about why, and I also want to say that in my over 12 years of playing this game, there has not been a single expansion, including Warlords of Draenor, that has gotten a more negative reception than Battle for Azeroth.
You know, all right, first point that I have to make, it's such a shame because I had such high hopes for BFA, and when BFA's beta was going on, I talked a lot about in my videos, like, oh yeah, I'm really excited because the questing I felt was good and everything seemed fine at first, but I kind of think it sort of falls into the Warlords of Draenor syndrome, where everything seems fine and cool in the beginning, but then once like the machine runs for a little while, it's like, oh my god, the cracks start to appear. But I knew the Azerite system was going to be a problem, and I talked about that from day one. Anyway.
If I go on Reddit, people are complaining. If I go into general forums, well, they're always complaining. But they're complaining now, too. And there's a lot more of them. If I go on Twitter, they're complaining. Any place that I can receive feedback about the game or view how people are seeing the game is overwhelmingly negative. All of the videos that people have been making have been overwhelmingly negative, or they've just been completely uninformed. It's just, it seems like there's a lot of people that don't like Battle for Azeroth, and I think there's a very, 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 very big reason for that. Did I say Barry? I don't know if I did. Is because people are realizing that they're rats in a Skinner box. And it's been a while. It's been, you know, I feel like I'm the old crazy guy. Well, I do feel that way, but I feel like that way even more with WoW. I feel like I'm the old crazy guy, the kooky crazy guy who's predicted the end of the world, and now people are finally starting to wake up and realize that I wasn't wrong. It's in Mists of Pandaria, they introduced this Titanforging, not Titanforging, sorry, that wasn't until Legion. The Thunderforging, and then Warforging, and then Warforging with sockets and WoD. And then I was telling people like, yo, this is bullshit, they're just doing this to extend the time.
I feel the exact same way, but about other things, and I wonder if he'll get into them. We'll see.
That you play the game. This isn't fun at all. Who has fun whenever you get a Warforged item? Is it more fun to get a Warforged item than it was to just get the baseline item? Probably not. No, they're doing this just to extend your playtime. And obviously, yes, RNG is good to an extent, but there's a huge fucking difference. There's a world of difference between an 8% item drop and a 0.00008% item drop with Max Titanforge, the socket that you want, and also the tertiary that you'd like to see. All of those things having to happen and all of those stars having to align is much different and a completely different world than just having to have an item drop that has an 8% drop chance from a boss back in Cataclysm or Wrath of the Lich King or any time before that. So the idea that they're similar is completely fucking ridiculous. Now, going back to what I was saying is that, you know, and then in Legion, so we got the legendary system.
I feel, just to put it on the table, because I've never really talked about this, I personally hate the whole, like, Titan forging, whatever forging system, because I think it gets rid of, like the achievement that you get from getting an item that you want so desperately. Oh, wow, you really want that sword, or, like, let's say that helmet. Oh, wow, it finally dropped, but, oh, you know, it's 340 item level when it could have been 380 item level, so it's not as cool anymore. So somebody once said that Blizzard succeeded in taking, oh, I forgot how they worded it, but they somehow succeeded in making something that's supposed to be fun disappointing.
That was fun. And then you had Titan Forging, which is so much more fun. And then, now in Battle for Azeroth, they did remove Weapon Titan Forging, which was good, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, you still have the normal Titan Forging. The truth is that there is no sort of power gain that a player can have that is exclusive to that player being good at the game. There is nothing that a Mythic Raider can have that makes their character more powerful that another random player cannot receive just by being lucky. Getting lucky, it doesn't feel good. It's just like, oh wow, I'm lucky. Blizzard has traded out fulfillment. Blizzard has traded out being able to come home after a week of farming, being able to come home and know that you have enough arena points to buy your Season 4 mace. I'll tell you guys a story real quick before I get into this, and this will be a way for you guys to understand where I'm coming from. There was my first semester in community college, all right?
All right.
It was a bad time, all right?
Dude, real life Asmongold story.
It was long enough ago that it was in Burning Crusade. I got my statistics test back, and I looked at that 57, or is it 37? I don't know. I failed. I dropped the class. It didn't matter. By the way, I came back a few years later. I got an A in it. I'm not that stupid. But the point is, I got the test, and I took that 57. I took that 37 with a smile because I knew later on that day I was going to go home and buy my Season 4 mace. The idea, the fulfillment of being able to get things in WoW is completely fucking gone. They have traded the fulfillment.
He's such like a... Asmongold knows exactly what he's doing. He is not an idiot. He appeals so much to the neckbeard, like, loser WoW playing stereotype. It's like he's not, but he understands, like, he gets it. That little, like, intentional, like, okay, whatever. He knows exactly what he's doing.
They have traded the satisfaction of the game for excitement and gambling. The fact is that there are so many fucking games that have turned into basically just being a slot machine, and just infinitely more and more carrots that they're going to put in front of you that are ever increasing in the velocity and like the rate that you have to get them in, right? And eventually you give people too many fucking carrots and they're going to get fed up. And that's what's happening. Okay. That is what's happened. It started happening in Mists of Pandaria. It started happening in WoD. People really didn't like it in WoD. That was because the expansion sucked. Legion was actually pretty good, so people didn't care as much because the rest of the gameplay was fun. And then, surprise, add in a GCD change and a couple of other bullshit mechanics that nobody wanted, like Azerite gear and removing the legendary affixes and the different traits, and not adding a new a new talent ring, and then basically being able to level up your character, which just feels like more like you're leveling down your character. I feel like I'm going back down to level 100 than not up to 120. And at the same time, yeah, people are getting fucking tired of this shit. They realize they're rats, and as I said, rats in a Skinner box. This is variable reinforcement schedule. This is psychology 101, psychological tricks. And the fact is that, man, like, people don't like this shit. They don't like it. And I think the problem, man, I use a metaphor here. The problem isn't the tree, okay? The problem isn't the leaves, it's not the branches, it's not even the trunk, it is the seed. The problem is the seed in which the game has grown out of, the philosophy that Blizzard has used to craft.
Thanks for the sub, man. I appreciate it. Mr. Comrade Bandit, welcome back, dude.
These recent expansions has been built entirely around excitement and not fulfillment. There is nothing that you can work towards anymore. There is nothing that matters anymore that you can work towards. Getting your neck a high level, who gives a fuck? Doesn't matter. Wow, you can go unlock an Azerite trait that you already had whenever you were in blues. It's like you're progressively moving.
Dude, that's talk about hitting the nail on the head. All right, let's keep going.
Moving backwards with your Azerite gear, and then you finally get a piece of gear that, by the way, you have no control over at all. Why did Blizzard think this was a good idea? Because, again, they're obsessed with RNG, and it's like, I just don't understand how it's gotten this bad. I really don't. I don't understand how the developers have gotten so out of touch with the game. And I hate to say this, man, but I want to know, I want to see the armories of these developers. I want to see their parses. I want to see how they play. I want to see what they're good at. I want to see, you know, what their achievements are.
So you can call them
a
filthy casual.
The game is, because it certainly fucking seems like they don't even play. How the fuck can you think the legendary system in Legion was a good idea? How the fuck can you think something like the Azerite system, especially on launch, was okay? And let's be honest.
Dude, it's not about like putting work or effort into things, yo. It's all about just everybody is a hero. Right, guys? Like, everyone's a special snowflake. You need to give, like, everyone a chance to, like, get that really fucking cool mace. Or get that really fucking cool item level. Because, God forbid, that mythic raider has a higher item level than the dude doing LFR. I mean, that just doesn't... No. Let's keep going.
I mean, yeah. Battle for Azeroth, the joke. Beta for Azeroth. Yeah, it had a lot of bugs in it. I get that. It had so many bugs it could be AQ. Haha. It's just, I don't understand. Like, to me, the bug issue is not that bad of a thing. And I do want to just mention that, like, right as an aside right now, I don't really give a fuck about the bugs. What I do care about is the class design decisions. And I care about the intentional things that are wrong, not the things that are on accident. But I'll have to, I guess, for a lot of the bugs, we'll have to wait for them to manifest themselves in a Mythic Plus tournament for them to actually be able to be fixed. So anyway, going back to what I was saying about the seed. The seed in this game, the philosophy in this game, is all about excitement. It's all about random reward. It's about creating a uniform experience that all players go through without anybody being able to get too far ahead or anybody being able to get too far behind. It's about creating an experience that doesn't matter if you're an LFR raider, it doesn't matter if you don't raid at all. If you're stepping into a dungeon, you're stepping into a raid, you're stepping into the same raid, the same dungeon that the best player in the world is stepping into. There's no growth. There's no visual growth of your character. There's nothing that your character is getting because you're very good at the game. Except for cosmetic rewards that nobody gives a fuck about. Obviously, mounts are very important, which, by the way, Gahoon doesn't drop a mount. But for the most part, I mean, what really motivates most players is growth and power rewards for their character. Being able to have a visual representation of what they've achieved in the game. There are no visual representations for that people really care about anymore. You can do a little bit more damage, but again, that's also limited by RNG, because of course now you don't even have Mashed Glued anymore. So, and Blizzard, like, whoever the fuck thought of that should be fired. Like, I legitimately do not understand. As I said before, I want to know, like, do these people even raid? Do they even play the fucking game? These decisions seem like they're so out of touch that it seems like they were created out of a spreadsheet and not out of love for the game. They're making decisions based off of analytics and not off of enjoyment. They're making decisions based off of metrics and not out of fun. Like, what's fun about leveling up your necklace that does nothing? You can't even click on it. Nothing is fun about the necklace. Nothing is fun about losing your Azerite traits and then reclaiming them, in a few weeks after, the throttling mechanism for the Azerite armor.
There's like a million things I want to say as he's talking, but I have a feeling he's just going to say everything that I say, because I know me and Asmongold are on the same wavelength, but at some point it's going to get too much, and I'm going to have to pause this video for 3 minutes and just go on a rant. But anyway, let's keep going.
Azerite amount of Azerite power that you get has brought you up to a point to where you're able to get that along with everybody else. There's nothing fulfilling about that. And that's really the issue, is that I feel like they've just removed all fulfillment from the game, and people are starting to realize this and are starting to ask themselves, why am I playing a gambling simulator? I might as well just buy a ticket to Las Vegas. This is ridiculous. So I feel like these developers, right, they don't understand. And then also, let me go back to this. The Azerite armor.
Okay.
I forgot who said this in the Q&A. This is just an unfortunate reality of the system. No, it's not, bro. Like, you made the system. You are literally God. You are God. You can change the system to be however you want. Don't tell me this is an unfortunate reality of a system that you have complete control over, that you can change and do whatever you want with. I'm not saying that they should delete Azerite armor. I would actually like them to make it work. But the idea that you can't change the system, this is just an unfortunate reality, is fucking bullshit. It just is. I'm sorry. Like, I'm so sick of getting these answers that basically you don't know what you want. And I think to an extent that's true, right? The stat templates in Legion. Players all...
You think you do, but you don't.
Wanted stat templates in Legion. Oh, we want it to be fair. We care about PvP for a fair and balanced experience. Meanwhile, people like me, like I said, man, people don't care about that. They want to get a new weapon and beat the shit out of somebody in 2 hits because they spend more time playing the game. That's what it's always been about. It's always been about the, it's like the Star Wars thing, the master and the apprentice. The master, with WoW, it's the neckbeard and the nub, right? The neckbeard has the power, the nub craves the power, the nub gets better, he beats the neckbeard, and the process repeats itself. That is a beautiful...
That's That's an interesting way to put it, but he's right. I mean, even back in Classic WoW, like, when you looked at that tier 3 raider that went to Naxxramas, and you're like, wow, look at that guy. Like, oh my God, that guy's got tier 3, man. He's got a full Dreadnought set. Dude, you can only imagine the person behind that fucking keyboard, okay? Like, that fucking pudding monster that's just sitting in that chair, like, Yeah, okay, let's just keep... He's right. Let's keep going.
Cycle of life in WoW, and now it doesn't matter if you're a neckbeard or a nub, because you're all going to look the same, and maybe you're going to do a little bit more DPS. It just doesn't make a difference at all. Oh, if you get lucky, though. The developers, I really feel like the problem is the developers have no way to communicate with the player base.
Okay.
They don't talk on Twitter.
Tell them to watch my YouTube videos.
Forums. Thank God. They don't read Reddit. They don't watch the videos, or at least they don't care. Trust me. They don't watch streams. You know, they certainly don't watch streams. Trust me on that too. They just don't really care. These things, they don't matter to the developers. So they have no way to communicate with the player base. The developers never sit down, I don't think, or at least maybe some of them do, but it certainly doesn't seem that way. And they don't interface with the community. What happens is one fucking dipshit goes on Twitter and makes a personal attack on one of the developers. He's like, oh, you're fat. Or even worse, he does something like, oh, I'm going to attack you in real life. He makes a real life threat. And then the developer says, okay, well, you know, I'm not going to interface with the community anymore. Well, yeah, okay, let me just say, let me do the crazy, you know, let me get on my soapbox and say that, yes, making personal attacks to people over a video game, especially if they're threats, yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. Nobody should do that. It should get banned from Twitter. It should get banned from whatever else. If the threat is credible, the police should go to his house and ask him why the fuck. They shouldn't go. They shouldn't put him in jail. They should put him in a mental institution because you're so fucking stupid that you're gonna threaten somebody. You're gonna threaten to kill somebody over a fucking video game. Like, the idea that this kind of stuff is acceptable is ridiculous. Of course it's not acceptable, but the idea that because a developer gets negative feedback on Twitter, because a developer gets, or a community manager, or somebody gets negative feedback on Twitter or somewhere else, means that they should just withdraw from the entire community is hurting everyone. And it's hurting, and it's making it harder for people to make the game better. It's making it harder for people to make what they love, World of Warcraft, that they've loved for some people over a decade, make the game into something that they can continue to love. So people that grow up and they play the game today can have the same experience that that person had, that I had back whenever I was 16 years old. That's what people want to have. And whenever you have people that just withdraw from the entire community just because of negative feedback, that's never going to happen. At this point, do we need community managers for the community managers? I hope not. So here's what I think Blizzard should do. They should create an official forum on their official websites, and it should be about feedback and suggestions, and it should be serious. No level 1 trolling, no trolling period. No people posting just to be antagonistic or just to stoke the fire and just make people angry, but legitimate feedback from legitimate people that's well thought out. And anything that's not that gets deleted. It would be very...
I don't know if I agree with that because, all right, so first and foremost, I mean, he's going to elaborate more, so maybe what I'm about to say is just throw it out the window. Giving a bunch of... Well, hold on, let me re-listen to a bit what he just said. Hold on.
No trolling period. No people posting just to be antagonistic or just to stoke the fire and just make people angry, but legitimate feedback from legitimate people that's well thought out.
I guess it just depends on, like, how do you define legitimate people? Do you mean like big YouTubers, like people like me? Like, oh, am I legitimate? Is it people like, oh, people that played Classic WoW and have been playing for 12 years? Like, are they legitimate? I think that I don't really like the idea because it sounds good in theory, but when you give like a bunch of plebs like a voice to give feedback on the game, I think we would just kind of end up getting the exact same thing of what we've seen so far. We get like selfie cameras and a watered down approach to things because the average normie will come onto the forums and start talking about how I have a really demanding job. I work 3 hours a day at a grocery store, and like I don't have time to play this game. I don't have time to do a 2-hour Dead Mines run, so you got to nerf it into a 10-minute like shit show. And if enough of those people start saying those things, and unfortunately most people that do go on the forums are there to complain. I mean, when's the last time you went on a forum and read a thread that said, Blizzard, you did such a fucking good job on this and you're so great, and then every single reply is people applauding? It just rarely happens. Most people go on the forums to complain, and I think that I don't know if I necessarily agree with Asmongold and the whole like communications department. I know what he's referencing with the whole like Twitter and developers running away. I think Blizzard does listen to the player base, in quotes, listen. but I think they listen, but they've already got their plan set in stone. And I think that they're just kind of like, oh, players don't like the mission table system. Well, we've already started work on it. There's nothing we can do now because, we know that Blizzard works on these expansions years before they even come out. So just make it a little less relevant or something, but we'll still have it. People don't like the Titanforging thing. Well, we got to still have it. I don't know. I think that Blizzard listens, but I think like Blizzard, they listen, but they care more about what their internals have to say as opposed to what the players have to say. And that's probably what Asmongold is getting at here. So what's a mission table, Nixxiom? Yeah. Mr. Contaz, how am I doing? I'm doing great, man. Thank you for that 2-month resub, dude. Let's keep listening because he's probably about to say all of what I just said. I could keep going on that point, but I don't want to turn this into a me thing. I want it to be about Asmongold. Anyway.
And anything that's not that gets deleted. It would be very simple for Blizzard to do that. They could curate the entire experience, and it would be a way for them to curate communication and be able to get that criticism and be able to act on it if they agree. But I think the problem also is that they simply do not agree. The players and the developers have two different visions for the game.
Oh, there it is,
and
right there.
That's
Perfect.
It's very clear evidenced by the fact that there are no vendors for gear in the game. Players have wanted PvP vendors back for years, and they haven't gotten them. Players have wanted different vendors for anything back, and they haven't gotten them. There's no Valor points. There's no Justice points. There's no...
Blizzard listens. They just don't give a shit because they know better than you. Big Brother upstairs knows better than you, essentially.
No sense of being able to work towards a reward nowadays, and everything in the game, again, is based completely on RNG. So the developers need to do a better job in talking with the community, realizing why the community wants this certain thing, and acting on it. Because at a certain point, the community are the people that keep the game alive, not necessarily the developers. They do, but it's...
Ooh, someone might have watched my Why Do MMOs Fail video. Haha, but I know that he did. Haha.
It's a symbiotic relationship, and if the community isn't happy, then it's just going to make things worse. And the problem right now is that people feel like they're yelling into an abyss. They're yelling and they're not being heard by the developers. And what that has caused is it hasn't made them stop yelling. It's made them yell louder. It's made them be even more antagonistic. And it's created this adversarial relationship between the developers and between the players that's unhealthy for the entire game.
Dude, I'll tell you one time, this just comes to mind. The one time where I saw Blizzard truly fucking bend to being yelled at by the community is when Nost got shut down. My God. Anything Blizzard posted on Twitter, if you clicked and looked at the replies to it, everyone was shit-talking them about Nost. The Facebook, their Facebook page, their YouTube videos, they put out a mount video during that time, and so many people shit talked that mount video oh, you shut down Nost and you prevent people from playing Classic, but here, buy this $25 mount. My God, all the people saying I'm canceling my Overwatch pre-order, blah blah blah. That's the only time I can think of where people yelled so loud at Blizzard that they actually bent. And yeah, all right, let's keep going.
And that's what's happened. I don't want to attack the developers. I don't hate the developers. I want to know why the fuck they're doing these things, and I want to be able to say, hey, well, what about this? What about this perspective? This doesn't feel good to me. Nothing feels good in the game anymore. Here's why. But I feel like if I make a post about that, if I talk about that, nothing changes. To an extent, I'm sure some of the developers do care, but it also seems like a lot of the game design decisions are being done for profit and not necessarily for fun. And here's a little bit of advice. If you're making a video game, if you can't explain a game design decision by anything else besides, well, we did this to retain players or we did this for profit, it's probably not a good game design decision. And that's exactly what's happened. A lot of the decisions that Blizzard has made have been transparently to extend game time. What they do is they add a system into the game, like the legendary system or something else similar to that, and they make people farm it out in the most counterproductive way, or the most negative or the hardest to farm way, and then as more and more people drop off, they then add in the catch-up mechanisms and the quality of life increases afterwards, so then more people will continue to play. And what that does is it creates a feeling of futility. It creates a feeling of, why would I even want to try to farm out and get all of these items and do all of this stuff if I just know that Blizzard is going to make it easier later on? And I think it doesn't really affect people that are on the tail ends, but it affects a lot of the people that are in the middle. There's this myth that nobody, you know, like the people that care about the game and want to be good at the game are like some like 5% of the player base. I think a lot of people that play WoW want to have a fulfilling and fun experience, and Battle for Azeroth is not delivering that. They have traded all of that fulfillment, they've traded all of that away for a feeling of gambling, for the excitement of gambling. And people are starting to realize that, and they're starting to wake up, and they're starting to say, hey, I'm not having fun. And I think that the only reason that it didn't happen in Legion is that all of the other content and all of the other gameplay in Legion was actually pretty good. And it really felt bad at the end of Legion that I was feeling like I was playing the good expansion before the bad expansion. And now that Battle for Azeroth is out, it seems like I was at least kind of right. PvP has been okay, but the entire PvE progression system is completely, it's just not fulfilling. It's not fun. They consolidated all of the armor sets to only be 4 different armor sets. It's like, if you don't like your armor, like the plate armor set, I mean, like the normal mode one, it looks like the guy's high. Like, I mean, the weird eyes, you know, these weird gloves and like this weird kilt thing that he's got on, and the helmet looks stupid. Like, I don't like the set. It's creepy and weird. And it's like, usually I'm like, oh, I like the DK set, because, you know, I used to be kind of an emo kid. And so, you know, black stuff with skulls all over it sounds awesome to me. And I go and I look, and there's no DK set. I don't have that option. Now, this is only one issue, right? But the idea of being able to pursue rewards that make your character look cool does matter a lot. These things make a big difference. Look at how many people that played Classic WoW or played Burning Crusade, how many of them remember seeing somebody in Ironforge or Stormwind that had really cool gear on. The idea that that feeling is gone and that entire psychology is just gone in 15 years is untrue. There are a lot of people that, if the game was still functioning in the same way, would feel the same way about it now. I'm not saying that everything that was in Classic should come back to the game now, but there's got to be a little bit of an acknowledgement that some of the systems were actually pretty good. The other problem that I have here, like with Azerite armor specifically, is that Blizzard fundamentally disagrees with how the player base wants Azerite armor to work. And I think this has created a very, very bad dynamic. The player base does not necessarily want, it seems to me at least. This is based off of everything that I've read, streaming Warcraft every day, reading the websites all the time, etc., right? Am I speaking for the player base? No. I'm just speaking for what I've seen, and I've seen a lot. It does not seem like the player base enjoys having to randomly farm for Azerite armor. People want a repeatable way to farm for Azerite armor, and Blizzard does not want to give that to them. Blizzard's philosophy on Azerite armor is so disconnected from what the average player wants, it's embarrassing. And this is something that's manifested itself everywhere. It's manifested itself with Titanforging, with the fact that they buffed Heroic Gahoon after one guild had killed it, and other guilds didn't want to kill Heroic Gahoon because they thought they'd get banned for exploiting it. It was evidence, there's a number of different reasons. It feels like Blizzard, they don't know how to communicate with players. They don't know what the players want. And many of the developers think that the players are wrong in what they want. Are the players wrong sometimes? Yes, they are. But it seems like in Battle for Azeroth, almost everything is completely contradictory with what the player base seems to want. As I said, this all goes back to that seed of communication. It all goes back to that seed of the developers being able to have a constructive line of communication with the player base, and that does not exist right now. That needs to happen. The Q&As are great. I really appreciate them, but we need to have more than a Q&As. We need to have something that's more holistic and something that players can see and they can participate in if they have a good idea. I understand that Blizzard's Azerite armor ideas, you know, they didn't necessarily go through in the same way, but at the same that people wanted them to. But I think that they can be reconciled if players are able to have a line of communication with the developers. And it just seems right now that it's this adversarial thing between the developers wanting to hold things back from players and the players wanting things. There's got to be some middle ground here, and I think that Blizzard's doing a very, very bad job in navigating that middle ground. Obviously, some of it's been okay, but most of the decisions that they've made have been completely backwards. What's frustrating to me about all of this is that I feel like everything that we do, everything that we talk about.
Again, I feel like I have to go back to my earlier point where I said that I don't necessarily. I feel like what has happened with the communication in World of Warcraft was sort of inevitable. If you give every single person an equal voice in a game and how it should go forward and whatnot, then the guy who wants to play the game for 5 minutes a day has just as much voice as the dude who plays 8 hours a day. And again, it goes back to what I said earlier, where I was like, oh, you know, how do you determine whose voice is the loudest? Who are you going to really listen to? Are you going to listen to people like that play WoW as an esport, or like what? In my opinion, this is just me, you know, feel free to disagree. I just look at WoW and I look at the systems and whatnot that made WoW the biggest MMO in history. And I look back at, okay, what is different from WoW today versus back then? So when he talks a lot about things like a very clear sense of progression, when he talks about, you know, looking up to the neckbeard master and like the newbies or the apprentices, and you're like, oh, wow, I want to be that guy one day. And it gives you an incentive to put more time in the game, climb higher, kill Ragnaros, kill Illidan, you know, whatever. I look at that and I'm like, this is good. And we don't really necessarily have that today. You know, even like if someone were to say like, oh, you know, Nixxiom, what's your item level? And I say, oh, it's this. And then like my friend says, oh, well, my item level is this and it's 10 points higher. Bitch, I don't give a shit. Like, you just got lucky probably in some Mythic Plus run and got a bunch of like 380 gear. Like, I don't give a shit. But in the past, like, oh man, like you got Warglaives of Azeroth from Illidan? My God, damn. So like that, now that's something to brag about, yo. Like, I love that shit. So I don't know. It's just my philosophy when it comes to this sort of subject is go back to what worked. You know, stop trying to reinvent the wheel, essentially. So yeah. Legion systems were fine in my opinion, except legendaries. I liked the legendary system. I felt like there was a lot of problems with it that I don't want to address right now because we're trying to watch Asmongold. But I do agree. I liked legendaries. There were definitely problems, but I think they could have been fixed. Anyway, let's keep listening. But Mr. Zart, thank you for that resub, man. And yes, I am proud of you, my friend. I am.
About everything that we say, everything we write down, everything that we think, it falls on deaf ears. It doesn't really matter at all. And I understand that, you know, developers are in no...
Mr. Luke, thank you for the sub, man. Thank you, dude. Thank you. Shh. Gotta keep watching.
I mean, they're not obligated to listen to any of us. Of course not. But man, like, it's like people wanted the honor to be account-wide in Legion. And they made it account-wide in Battle for Azeroth. Like, why didn't they do that in Legion? Were the players wrong in Legion? No, obviously not, because Blizzard changed it, and I would consider it a positive change. There are a lot of examples of Blizzard holding back quality of life increases for arbitrary periods of time in order to artificially increase the amount of time that you're playing the game. Or just because they don't want to admit that they're wrong. I think that's another big component to it as well. The shaman thing is another good example, right? Blizzard, I feel like they want to make it to where you can never make a bad choice in the game, but there are still a few bad choices that you can make, such as rolling a shaman. They suck. They're not good. Like, are they terrible? Are they the worst thing in the entire world? No, they're not.
Oh.
They're still okay. But the fact that they're underperforming so far below other healers and other DPS makes them not appealing as much than other classes. And the big difference between a game like WoW and a game like Diablo 3 is the fact that players have to choose to play with you. And whenever you create systems where players are artificially and you create these different power dynamics where one player is a lot better and one player is a lot worse, what happens is the players that are artificially limited, right? They don't get the right Titan Forges. They don't get Azerite armor out of their box. They don't get what they need to have. And instead, they just sit there and they don't get invited to groups. That doesn't feel good. And again, I'm going to go back to the feeling good part. There are so many things in the game that do not feel good. And I think that's really the main focus. I feel like, to a certain extent, this might be because I'm getting older, right? But whenever I read entire forum threads about people telling me that, or not telling me, but saying the exact same thing that I'm thinking, I feel like this isn't just, oh, I'm drifting away from the game because I'm getting a bit older. I feel like it's a fundamental problem. I don't feel that much older in terms of the things that I want, and I feel like there's a lot of people that think the exact same way. There are just all these like really, really like I wrote some of these down. These are dumb decisions that Blizzard has made that I feel like doesn't make any sense, right? The legacy loot system. It does not work with WoD dungeons. Blizzard considers WoD dungeons. They consider WoD dungeons current content until you got up to 111. It doesn't work with Legion dungeons and Legion raids until you get up to 121. So even though somebody's able to solo Gul'dan at this point, and solo I think kill Jaden as well, somehow Legion content is still current content. Why would you make it to where you can't just use legacy loot in the Legion raids? It makes absolutely no sense. And it's the same with like not being able to swap your gear in Mythic Plus. Like, what is the value of that? Why is that good? What does that add to the game? The idea that taking away choices adds more choices, I think, is valid to an extent, but not in this circumstance. I don't feel like there's been anything positive about that at all. The master loot thing, I think, is probably the biggest issue that I had with Battle for Azeroth, and it made me lose the most amount of faith in Blizzard, because it made it obvious to me that their philosophy in terms of creating the game is completely different than my philosophy in terms of what's meaningful and what matters.
Getting rid of the whole master looter system was a direct attack on the community aspect of the game, and Asmongold and Mr. McConnell, shout out to McConnell, they got into a little bit of a debate on his stream the other day about it, and Asmongold was pretty much defending that point that, you know, this change of just, oh, it's just all personal loot now, like who cares, and removing that ability to sort of determine, you know, who gets what loot, whatever. It just gets rid of so much of the it gets rid of like so much social interaction in the game, whether you're talking about, you know, doing a dungeon or running a raid with your raid mates, whatever. And so yeah, let's keep going.
In a group environment,
I do not like personal loot. That's what I'm trying to say. I think that a personal loot system directly attacks the community aspect of an MMO, and I do not feel it helps the game in any way. If you can give me one good reason, like tell me how it helps the game. How does it retain players? How does it keep people playing the game for years to come? Like how does it do it? It doesn't. Anyway.
It seems like almost Blizzard doesn't want people to play with each other, and they're creating so many other examples and ways for people to have a single player experience. The idea that being able to participate in a boss kill means that you earn the loot in the same way that somebody who maybe earned that boss kill by...
Someone said in the chat, today's children are today's kids are all introverts. They do not want social interaction. Well, those kids better learn how to socially interact, because let me tell you something. As soon as they get out the door and they go and sit down with that manager, or they go to college off on their own and they got to make friends and they don't know anybody anymore, and their high school girlfriend is, you know, 300 miles away in another state, well, they better learn some social interaction. Otherwise, they're going to get fucked. All right. Life is going to hit them like a goddamn anvil. So learn to socially interact. You know, learn to communicate. We are social animals. We enjoy communication. You know, man is mankind's delight. You will never find happiness by being an individualist. You will always truly find it through other people, through relationships, through friendships, through whatever, like through family, through people. You know, and people that, and MMOs thrive on this aspect. They thrive on the fact that people communicate, they come together, they overcome challenges, they work together, and so on and so forth. That is the strength of an MMO. That is what makes people continue to play an MMO for 12 years, like Asmongold here. It's not the game. Like, fuck the game. Who gives two shits about like the mace or something? Yeah, the mace is something to aspire towards. Like, oh my god, like the you know, the Hand of Ragnaros, the legendary. Yeah, that's something to aspire towards, but it's something that you and your friends can work towards. It's something that you guys can do together, you know, and that's what makes an MMO so fucking awesome. You know what I mean? Like, you and your bros get together and you kick Kel'Thuzad's ass. You know, you kill Jaden. back into the Sunwell together. The Sunwell, not the Sunwell. The Sunwell together. That's what makes it cool, man. That's what makes it awesome. You know, and sharing those experiences and then geeking out in school over it. Like, oh, man, last night, man, dude, remember when, like, Timmy, when he stood in the fire like a fucking idiot? Like, yeah, I remember that. That was so fucking funny. That guy sucks. We got to kick him out of the guild. That's what makes an MMO special. And anything that attacks the community aspect of an MMO, anything is bad for the MMO. So when he's talking about this personal loot system, it does attack the community aspect. It does, you know, it makes people less encouraged to communicate, to talk. It doesn't give them that incentive anymore, because who cares? You just get loot. I mean, who cares? You know, fuck DKP, fuck all that stuff. Like, yeah, just give me my free loot. I don't like personal loot. Asmongold's right in this, and sorry, I just had to preach for a second. I don't give a shit if kids nowadays are like introverts or whatever. Like, listen, I was an introvert too at one point. I was terrified of talking in front of people, all right? And that's why when I was in college, I took public speaking. I was fucking terrified. Let me tell you what, I was terrified to take public speaking in community college. Asmongold is sharing his community college stories. Well, you know what? I'm going to share one of mine. I was terrified as shit. But the thing is, I knew that if I took that class, and I knew if I was forced out of my comfort zone, it would benefit me. It was the exact same logic that made me go to the gym for the first time. It was the exact same logic that made me get a job as a cashier. And it scared the shit out of me being a cashier. I was so terrified of people. It was the exact same logic that made me get on a mountain bike for the first time and go mountain biking by myself, despite the fact, hey, maybe I could wreck and hurt myself. It doesn't matter. I stepped out of my comfort zone. It benefited me. Here I am today. I can talk in front of hundreds of people, no big deal. I can talk in front of hundreds of people in real life, you know, right in front of them. I don't care. You know, it helps. So yes, encouraging that social interaction in young people is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. And those are my thoughts. Let us keep going, shall we? No one cares about me. Let's listen to Asmongold. But sorry, I just had to rant for a second because you pushed the right button, my friend. You pushed the right button. Let's keep going.
Progressing on it for 200 kills before you got there, that you guys are on the exact same footing by something that Blizzard created is, I mean, that's terrible. And it's completely untrue. And on top of that, whenever I made the previous video about this, what I said would happen has come true. Less people are wanting to raid. Raiding, at least from my perspective, is at a pretty, I don't know if it's at an all-time low, but it's definitely pretty low. There's a lot of people that don't feel motivated for it. And all this, all the personal loot thing has done is it's created even more negative social interactions. So for an example, in like a lot of guilds nowadays, like mythic raiding guilds, you are required to, if you get an item that is an upgrade for you, trade it to the master looter and then have your item be redistributed to the entire raid. Now, obviously, like that might not really make sense, but if you're playing in an environment, in a group environment where, you know, you want to make sure the group is the best as possible, that's obviously the best thing to do. But it feels even worse for you to have to trade away an item that you received just because of the way that Blizzard made it. And I feel like, yes, obviously this is an emergent player behavior, but the issue is that Blizzard has they have no foresight on these kinds of things. They have no way to be able to predict emergent player behavior nowadays. There are very few times that Blizzard has put something in the game and the player base has responded to it in the way that I think Blizzard intended. Just the Azeroth armor is just completely ridiculous example for that. The class design in Battle for Azeroth is, I think, overall worse than Legion, just in general. We don't have artifact weapons anymore. We don't have legendaries anymore. We don't have any new talents. We basically just lost things in Battle for Azeroth, and the only thing that's been replaced with is Azeroth armor. Oh, we also lost tier sets as well. And, like, is the game better without tier sets nowadays? I don't think so. I think another example of is the game better than... Reforging has been out of the game for 2 expansions now. Can anyone who's watching this video honestly say that the game has gotten any better with Reforging gone? No. Has it improved the player experience at all? No, I don't think so at all. All of these different things that they've taken out of the game have not made the game experience better at all, but they, for some reason, they fit into Blizzard's grand scheme, grand design of the game that apparently is not shared by the majority of the player base. I don't know what to do, and the fact is that I've re-recorded this video a number of times because it just gets so long. And I get halfway through the video and I realize that, oh my God, I haven't even gotten...
How the hell this guy can rant for 34 minutes without like editing like a cough or an or a moment where he has to think is incredible. When I do YouTube videos and I rant like this and I start bitching moaning, like I just lose my thoughts. I rabble too much. I mean, it's bad. You know, the jump cut is my best friend. How he does it, it's very impressive. There's other things I want to say, but I'll wait till I'm done. Or he's done
talking about half of the stuff. I don't want to make an hour-long video, but it seems like if I was going to go through every single thing that's wrong with Battle for Azeroth, it'd have to be like 2 or 3 hours long. And I don't know what to do, honestly. I really don't. Like, PvP to a certain extent is okay. Blizzard is very, very slow with making changes. Death Knights are completely terrible, you know, etc. Right? But for the most part, I think they've done an okay job with PvP. With PvE, like Mythic Plus dungeons, I feel like they're just not fun for me. Like, I mean, I'll just be honest, they're just not fun. Like, there's just so much more trash in the Mythic Plus dungeons nowadays than there were in Legion. And also combining that with like I don't like the GCD change. Honestly, I really feel like it hasn't made the game better. And all of like my class does not feel fluid. It does not feel fun to play. And I think a big part of that is because the GCD change. And I just think like the added trash and the playability of my class being limited based off of, you know, having to use an entire GCD to use cooldown, etc. Having that in Legion and being able to have that fluid gameplay and then going from that into Battle for Azeroth where everything is much more clunky. As I said before, it really feels like we're going from level 110 to 100 and not up to 120. It's very disappointing, guys. It really is. Now, I'm still enjoying the expansion in a lot of different ways, but I feel like I could be enjoying it in a lot more ways. And I hope that if there's any takeaway from this video at all, it's the idea that Blizzard really needs to find a way to better solicit feedback from the community. They need to find a way to listen to the community and hear what they have to say. And at a certain point, whenever enough people are saying it, it can't necessarily be wrong. But what Blizzard needs to do is not necessarily look at what players want, but look at what they need. Stop giving people what they want. Stop giving them free items. Stop giving them free stuff. Don't just, oh, we're going to give them the emissary, the 370 emissary reward. That's great that they're doing that, but it doesn't solve the problem of Azerite armor. Blizzard is putting bandages on. It's like you cut your leg off and Blizzard puts a bandage over the bone. It doesn't make a difference at all. They're addressing symptoms and not the disease. I really think that this needs to change, and I think that Blizzard needs to find a better way to communicate with the player base on a more consistent level, not just Q&As randomly, not just random Twitters, but they need to figure out a way, and I think they should create a forum on their official website to solicit this feedback and to solicit these suggestions and to hopefully give people the opportunity to make the game that they all love better, because that's what we really all want to do. And I want to end the video and say this, that I played World of Warcraft ever since 2006. I had just turned 16 years old, and it was one of the best experiences. Like, that year that I started playing WoW was one of the best years of my life, and one of the reasons for that was because of WoW. I don't care if people think that's stupid or not, because it's true. It made me feel so good. I loved it, and I love this game, man. Like, I don't want to see it just fall into the hands of people who are apathetic and just divisive and angry and disgruntled with the player base. Man, like, it can be so much more than that. It really can. And I think that they can do that. I really do. But right now, they haven't been doing a very good job. The player base is not necessarily wrong all the time. Sometimes they are, but it's not always. The developers and the players should work together, not work against each other. And communication is the first step for that happening. And I really hope that it does. There's nothing that I want more than for the game to do well and for it to succeed. But a lot of changes need to happen for that to be the case. And Battle for Azeroth, in a lot of ways, has taken a lot of steps backwards and not forwards. So Blizzard not only has to, regain the ground that they had gotten with Legion, but also move forward from that. I think a lot of people are waking up. They're realizing like this Titanforging and Warforging and, these just arbitrary systems that are being created to extend your game time. These things are not fun. These things are not enjoyable for them. And I hope that Blizzard realizes that. Give us another way. Give us something where your character's power is not defined by just getting really lucky. It's not fun. Nobody enjoys this.
That's right.
It's not fulfilling to randomly get the Titan Forge. It's exciting for 5 minutes, but then you don't
I'm
care
sorry,
about it
I had
afterwards.
to.
There are items I remember that I earned in Wrath of the Lich King, Burning Crusade, Classic WoW that I still remember today. I don't remember what my highest Titan Forge item was in Legion. I have no idea. I don't remember what my Warforged socketed items were in WoD because they didn't matter. I don't know, man. I don't know. I felt like I had to make this video, and let me know what you guys think. Did I miss some stuff? Am I wrong?
I'll tell you what
Let
I
me
think.
know. I know that there's a lot of people that are happy with BFA. I get that. Good. But that doesn't mean that everybody who's not happy with it is wrong. And I want everybody to be happy, not just some people. So anyway, guys, that's pretty much all I've got. Thank you very much for watching. And like, comment, and subscribe.
Oh, Asmongold. All right. I got 300,000 things to say. All right. First of all, let me hop on Nixxiom. All right. Now, I don't know if this is a good analogy to this. Let's talk about a classroom for a second. Now, I don't know if this is going to be a good metaphor, and I didn't really think it out, but let's talk about it. Now, imagine this. You know, what do people like? Let's start with this. What do people like? What is one thing that we can all agree, that we all unanimously enjoy? All right, and serious responses here. What do we like? We like to achieve things. We like to set goals and to achieve them. No matter what that goal is, no matter what that thing is, we enjoy that shit. Me. Pussy and ice cream. Dude, pussy and ice cream, that's it. You know, pussy and ice cream, man. I can get behind that. No. We like setting goals and we like achieving things. Now, I want you to imagine you're in a classroom and you fucking bust your ass. You know, it's a math class, and you're busting your ass, and you're working hard every night. You're studying. You're trying to get that A. And you know what? You get that A. You get it. You go in there. You go into Miss Loxton's classroom, that bitch. Shout out to Miss Loxton from high school. And you get that A in her class. Congratulations. But then imagine some bitch gets a D, but that shit Titanforges to an A. I want you to imagine that for 1 second. All right? Now, I ain't no, like, big, heavy metal, big dick, like, mythic raider. But goddamn, I mean, that is how I would feel. I mean, like, damn, I'd be pissed off as shit. Is that a good analogy? Is that good? Or is that bad? Like, a D Titan forging into an A. You know? Thank you guys for the follows, by the way. Asmongold's right. There definitely is a massive, massive issue with the communication between the developers and the players. But I would disagree in the fact that I feel like I think Asmongold feels there's a very strong and very, like, there is a solution to that. And personally, I disagree with that. I don't think there really is a solution. In a game with millions and millions of voices, you're going to have opinions from all over the place. You're going to have my opinions as a big Classic fanboy. You're going to have, you know, Lil Billy's opinions. Man, he loves BFA, man. BFA is the best thing in the world. Best thing since sliced bread in his mind. You're going to get so many different viewpoints. And there is going to be conflict. Not everybody likes Classic. I get called a shithead all the time online. Like, oh, Nixxiom, you're stupid. You liked Classic. That buggy mess. I don't care. That's fine. I love Classic, yo. You know, some people are like, oh, you like BFA? Fuck you. It's just a big mess. And I think the developers are trying their best, but I think they've got their own agenda. And just back to what we talked about earlier, they've got their own agenda, and I think that what they want out of WoW, in their minds, has greater priority than what the players want out of WoW. And I could be wrong about that. Maybe Mr. J. Allen Brack will jump in the call right now, and he'll be like, nah, dude, that's not true. Like, we listen to the players all the time, man. We're always putting the players' needs over our needs, and yada, yada, yada. But I'm sorry, but whether or not that's true or that's false, this is the opinion that I have, Asmongold clearly has, and a lot of people have. That Blizzard's agenda is more important than what the players want. And for me personally, I wanted to talk about this in the Asmongold video. Right in the beginning, he complained about being the crazy old man. Okay? Now, aside from... I was going to make a hairline joke, but I'm not going to do it. All right? I can relate to that. Because for me personally, guys, I mean, I'm going to get a little corny here for a second, so please bear with me. I was there, man. I was there in the trade chat when people said, guys, WoW just hit 4 million subscribers. I was there when the people were like, dude, 5 million, 6 million, 7 million. Like, every day was a new pog of my life. It was incredible. You know, sitting there and seeing that the community that I was playing in... Hold on.
As a filthy casual, I will find a way to have fun. It should not come at the expense of ruining high-end raiders.
We'll talk about that in a second. Hold on. The point is, I watched this game grow. And the things that hooked me to the game, the things that made me and my friends play this game and kept us playing it for years and years and years, I've watched these things slowly be taken away. I talked in my Why Do MMOs Fail video about the necessity for content and community and all that stuff. And I've watched the community aspect of the game be repeatedly attacked by Blizzard over and over. The removal of things like group quests. The introduction of things like LFR. Fuck LFR. If LFR needs to be explained to you, like why LFR is bad, dude, I just don't have the patience for you, man. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I just don't. LFR, the list goes on. Even the smallest of things, which, you know, admittingly, Blizzard sort of brought this back in this expansion, like removing for the longest time that ability to buff your fellow players. Remember walking into Goldshire? You're a fucking warrior, and you walk up to that priest and say, hey, priest, can I get Power Word Fortitude? There's a naked night elf right there. I like it. We'll look at her later. Or going up to that druid and saying, can I get Thorns? You know, can I get Mark of the Wild? Can I get that? You know, can I get that? And then you feel more powerful and you go out and you still die to Goldtooth either way. Shout out to Goldtooth. Shout out to Goldtooth. I mean, come on. You know, that guy killed many a foe. Okay. It just, even that little tiny thing added a little bit of social interaction to the game. And I'm not going to say the same rant that I did 10 minutes ago where I talk about how the social interaction is the backbone of the MMO and blah, blah, blah. I mean, you guys already heard that. But it's true. And it's no surprise to me when I hear and I see the sub numbers dropping. And even today, you know, someone comes on the stream, a few of you guys have been talking about this whole alleged leak that WoW is down to 1.7 million subs. I watched this game grow. I watched it hit over 12 million subs. I was proud of that. And I've been watching it die. This game was my childhood, man. Like, just like Asmongold, I think me and him can relate to this. This game gave us something. It gave us so many friends. It gave us so many opportunities. It might have even taught us so much shit. I don't know. Maybe you met some dude and he taught you something important in life. Some lesson that you took even to this day. This game was special, man. Because it brought people together. And seeing those people slowly fade away, that's sad. And seeing the sheer obliviousness of the Blizzard developers sometimes. It's almost like, do you know what you're doing? Do you realize what you're doing? Is WoW still a good game? Yeah, it's a good game. Is it great? Is it going to win any awards? Is it going to be in every single PC gamer magazine? No, not really. I don't know. These are my thoughts. I mean, I'm just speaking for myself here. They're just my opinions. I know some of you guys might have just started WoW recently. You know, maybe, hey, maybe for you guys, you love BFA. And, you know, hey, man, if you're having fun, great. I'm glad that you're having fun. I'm glad you're enjoying the expansion. But for people like me, there's just only one thing I can say. There's only just one true solution to this problem in my mind. And it starts with a C, and it ends with a C. So Blizzard, please, give me what I want. Give me the game that made World of Warcraft the biggest MMO in history. Give me the game that addicted me and all my friends years ago. Give me what I want. It's not cock. It's not cock. You guys are close. It's classic.
Guess who's back?
It's
Back
classic,
again.
guys.
Jay is
Classic.
back. Tell a friend.